Hello friends, this is the next video in our series on Grace Notes, my Grace Notes journal, and in this episode I'm going to show you how I put my cover together. So what I decided to use is, you know, those hanging file folders that you get. This was a big legal sized file folder, and they look like, you know, this inside, this outside. I decided to use one of those. I kind of liked the color of this one, but you could use cardstock or whatever. I cut it to size, and what I did is I looked at my papers again, and I added a few kind of, I'll show you the signatures afterwards, but I used a couple of just plain coffee dyed paper because I thought it was just too much busyness. I wanted a couple of quiet pages. So I ended up with 3 signatures of 10 pages each. So that was much bigger than I initially had planned. My journals just sort of take on a life of their own. I don't know if that happens to you, but when I first started this project, I actually thought I was going to just do a quick little journal. I wasn't going to do near the amount of grunging and mixed media and stuff that I did in this, that I ended up doing. But it's just, you know, it's the process and what you're learning and what you're wanting to do and just the season of life that you're in. And I don't know, I think that's the beauty of doing art, is that it just takes on a life of its own based on where you are in your journey. I hope that makes sense. If you know what I'm talking about, and if you've had a similar experience, comment below, because I'm kind of interested in how this works for other people. Anyways, so I decided to make a 3-inch spine. So hopefully that's not too big. I think it'll be okay. So I did a 3-inch spine, and then each one of the side pages, I made them 6 inches, but I had an extra ½ an inch, just the way the folder was. It was a ½ an inch wider, so I decided to fold a ½ an inch in just to give it a little bit extra support on those edges. So I'm just going to tape down those 2 edges. And then this file folder had a natural fold in the middle, and I thought that was a little bit, this was a used folder, so it was a little bit probably weak, so I reinforced it just with a little bit of fabric medical tape. It's just 3M fabric medical tape, I think. I don't know. If you're interested, let me know and I'll see if I can look it up for you. And then I decided to reinforce, just a reinforcement, and then I decided to reinforce also where I folded the 2 folds to make the spine. So that's the inside of that. And then I decided to, I just took a piece of kind of heavy brown craft paper, and I did some mixed media on it again. And I cut it to fit exactly inside here. And I decided to use that as my liner. And then I cut a piece for the spine, and this is almost 3 inches wide. I just did it, you know, a tiny bit shy, just so that it's not going to catch on the folds. And I did it just a tiny bit shy on the top and bottom as well. And then I scored it every 3/4 of an inch. So it's 3/4 of an inch, another 3/4, another 3/4. So then what that does is it gives me 3 places to do the signatures. And this is one of my favorite ways of doing a bigger journal like this, is I take a separate piece, I cut it to the size of the spine, I make all my marks, I fold them, so I scored on each one of those, and then I scored an inch from, I think it's an inch from the top and an inch from the bottom, and then I folded it exactly in the center. So then I have all these fold marks. There's an extra one there, just ignore that one. And then I took my awl tool and I just punched, or just made a hole in each one of those intersections there. So this is, it's like my template, but it's also a reinforcement for the spine. So I'm going to show you in a minute how I put the signatures in using this. First of all, I think I'm just going to get this glued in. I don't need to do that probably on camera. I think I'll probably use a good coating of glue here. Maybe I'll just put it on with, you know, kind of a card like this, maybe a little bit thinned down glue, and then I'll glue the edges in here this way up, and then I'll be back to show you how that looks. Okay, so I got that piece put together, and I just wanted to, I've shown this in the past, but for any of my new viewers, I just wanted to show, I don't usually show my process of gluing, so I don't usually show these tools, but I do use them pretty much every time I craft. This is called a Sili Pod, S-I-L-I, and it's just made of silicone, and you put glue in there. Right now I don't have much in there, but you can put glue in there, and which I usually do have. I actually just used it. That's why I just used it for my cover here. This is the tool that I used for the back. I just use this as like a squeegee. And you can see I just finished using it, and there's just a tiny little thin layer on there that I can just scrape off when it's dry. It's got brush thing on that side, so you can do it that way as well, so it gets kind of grooves in it, so it's not as thick. And then these are two of the bigger brushes that you can use, and they've got like it's like a silicone brush. Like this is dried on here. This is one of the beauties of it is you just let the glue dry on, and then when it's dry, you just peel it off, and it just comes off basically in one piece like that. So it's super easy to clean, and they each have another tip like that. So if you're just doing like a card or something, you can scrape on that. These are called Sili brushes. There's also a, it looks like a little painter's tray. It's downstairs right now because I was just using it. And I put all kinds of mediums and stuff in there. I think I had gesso in there last time. So I was just cleaning that out by the sink. And then these are the 3 brushes that come with the Sili Pod, and they have, like this one is a precision tip, so it's got one silicone side and one plastic side. And then these ones have different tips as well. So I use these all the time for my gluing process, and different mediums and stuff like that. They're just really, really handy. So I'll leave a link below to these if you're interested in checking that out. Okay, so here's my finished inside inserted page. So I just, like I said, I just spread glue on the underside and just glued it on. That's all I did. So now I'm ready to start my signatures. And here's my first signature. Again, I said there's 10 pages. I added a couple of just more plain pages because I thought it was getting a little too busy. So there's still lots of interest in there, but there's a little bit of relief for the eyes as well. So what I do is I usually use a phone book, and I put my signature first. So I'll open this signature. This one does not have any short pages. It's got narrow pages. This is a narrower page, but it has no short pages. If you have any short pages, like I do in my other ones, you have to make sure that they're going to hit probably at least 2 holes if you can. So you don't want it just centered so that it's going to be a little wobbly, unless you do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. This time I'm just going to use 3. So what I do is I just put this part into the groove here, and as I'm punching, it'll force itself more down into there. And I line it up. This is going to be my first signature, so I just line this up. This is slightly bigger, taller than the signature, so I just center that a little bit. And then I just take my my awl here, and I just punch, and as I'm punching, it'll force it right down into that crease there, and it'll make a nice hole in all of those pages. And I've got quite a bit of pages going on here, so I'm gonna use a bit of elbow grease to get it in. So now I have the first signature punched in exactly the right place. So now I can take my signatures, so you can see where it punched the 3 holes, and I can put it like this, and I can stitch it in, and it's all perfectly aligned. So I've got my, I just use crochet cotton most of the time, and I do it about 3 times the height of the book, so that's what I have. And this time I'm going to start on the outside. Sometimes I start on the inside. It depends if you want your tails on the inside or the outside. I want them on the outside because I'm going to glue this part to my book. So it'll just give it a little bit more reinforcement. So you just start pulling it, pulling it through. I lost my my other side here already. I was just going to tell you not to lose your tails. See if I can get it threaded without putting the needle back through there. So there's that. Sometimes I just, you know, especially if I got a lot of bulk going on or something, I'll just clip the tail to the top like that, and then it can't get lost. So you pull the tail out like that, and then you go through either the top or the bottom, it doesn't really matter. So you go through there, and then that will be through the next one. It's in the same line, but in the top or the bottom, like that. And I'll pull that tight. And then I need to go back in through the bottom in this case. And through all the layers. If you get them a little out of whack, then you might have to feed it in a little bit more individually like this. Then I come to my middle one. And like that. And then I go back through the center. Back out to this first one here. So that's all stitched together. So that's what it looks like on the inside. That's what it looks on the outside. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you have one string on either side of this middle string, and then you need to tighten it. And you need to have fairly taut, but you don't want to rip anything. So, you know, just kind of give it a good tug, but not a super tug. And then go on the other side and just kind of make sure that these are taut. If there's a little bit of excess in between the pages or something, it won't be taut. So once it's nice and taut, then I just do basically a double knot here. Because I'm gluing these in, a double knot is totally sufficient. And I'm just going to leave a bit of tail here because, again, this is going to be taped in here, and that'll just give it a little bit more security there. So that's one done. So I'm going to do my other 2 signatures exactly the same way. Here's my other 2. There's one and there's the other one. So what I'm going to do is take this one like this. I'm going to put this on top. You could probably do this all at once before you put this first one in. It probably would be a little bit easier. In fact, I think I will do this one and this one, punch the holes in the signatures, and then stitch them in separately so that, you know, you don't have all of this stuff here to try to punch your holes. So I'm going to punch these holes, sew that one in, and then I'm going to punch holes and sew this one in, and then I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Okay, so I got all my signatures sewn in here, and it looks pretty good. I think I made a good choice making it 3 inches. So here's all the pages nicely sewn in. I've got a good space in between the signatures. I've got 3/4 of an inch between each of the signatures, so I've got, you know, some extra space at the in between each signature. So a little bit of room to grow there. I had purchased this several years ago. It's Suk Wang tape. This is a 2.5 inch width and a pretty good sized roll. It was expensive back in the day, and it's probably really expensive now in today's world. But I've been using this for years and years, and there's still lots left. So if you wanted to, you know, if you're making lots of journals and you wanted to invest in something, this is really, really good stuff. But you can also use glue. You can use, you know, any kind of strong adhesive that you want. So what I'm going to do for mine is I'm going to put a strip of this. It's two-sided tape. I'm going to put a strip of this here and tape all of my strings and everything down. And then I'm going to center it onto my cover, and I'm going to tape it on there, and it'll be super strong, and that will hold everything for forever. So I see my cover's warping a little bit from that glue, but it'll settle down once it gets dried on both sides there. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll show you what that looks like. So my spine is attached now. Just looking at this, I'm thinking I might do another layer of something on the outside here, just for a little extra stability. This will get a little bit stiffer as the glue, you know, kind of sets up more. But I'm thinking I might, I don't know. It's a little bit softer than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to think about that. But I'm just going to do a quick little flip through of the pages here. And then, yeah, so maybe I'll just speed this part up, and I'll just flip through the pages and you can just see what I've done. There. So that was just a quick little flip through, and I have a huge pile of ephemera that we have made over the last few videos. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how I put this all together. So subscribe if you want to see that one so you don't miss it, and I'll see you soon.